a lot of things that we no longer felt were indicative of who they were and what was right. And then Mary Carrillo came in late. Billie Jean King, we wanted to save till late so that she could be important and yeah.
I think one of the things too, like Becca's talking about, that was really challenging and going back in, is that at some point you have to create this. We kept calling it an elegant weave. That was sort of like, and discipline, which is another one. How do you tell 4 stories, 2 cancer journeys, 2 career stories? Like, that's a lot. And so it really became, by that last going through the cancer with Chrissy, it was like they have to be shadows and light of each other at any given time, right? So if we hear about the loneliness here, how is it different in this person's journey? So Chris was all about isolation in her career and all about needing people in her cancer journey. Martina needed people, needed to create a family in her tennis life. And when it came to cancer at this stage in her life, she was like, I can't do this and take care of anybody else. I have to focus. So it was this really, they, like Sally says in the film, they change and cross over in personalities in some ways. And that sort of also became a North Star for us, is how do we do that? And that came with a lot of hard choices, a lot of sacrifices of storylines that we all loved. Everyone had a different one that they loved. And you had to say the greater good is these 2 being reflective of each other on this journey. I did want to say one thing that was really great and has been a lot of fun in this project. Becca was saying to me, they want us to, let's get them in the same room watching their matches, right? And I was like, is that gonna work? Like, if you think about watching people watch something, I think that's what I thought. And then we did, and it was just like fireworks. They'd never seen anything of these. They knew the outcomes. They even know most of their strokes. Like, they know what they played, but they'd never watched themselves play. So we were in the room with them, and like, she'd pop up from behind the sofa and be like, and I was like, oh my God, and they had so much it was such a great choice. And I think it ended up also allowing us in on those matches in a way that just hearing the commentary of it, the live commentary at the time, the people talking about having seen it, it was so different to watch those moments with like Chris being like, yeah, like it was like all of a sudden we had 21-year-olds on our hands again. And that was very cool.
Yeah, such a glamorous production life. I'm always hiding behind a sofa. Just like sitting on a pelican case. So glamorous. Yes. Sweating. Yes.
I'm so glad you brought those moments up. That was what I was hoping to follow up on. They're just so perfect segue, yeah. They're so electric and there are some very emotional moments in there because I think they have this long relationship of mutual understanding, either in their friendship or their rivalry, but they were still learning new things about each other. I didn't know that's why you cried after that match, because you felt so alone. I thought you were just overwhelmed because of X, Y, and Z. And it just made me think, I wonder, could either of you speak to their experience seeing this product and getting that further window into each other's lives? What did they think?
There were some really beautiful and hard moments throughout the way. I think that we don't understand as laymen's what it's like to live in this #1 bubble, right? And Indian Wells, which is them sitting out in the stands, was a very hard weekend. It was our last shoot, and I said to both of them, we're gonna lay it all out on the table, right? Everything that we haven't done, we're gonna lay out on the table. And we did, and it was hard. And we sat out on the stands, and there was one particular moment when we were talking about the sponsorships and Martina coming out, and it hit home for me. Obviously, I'm an out woman, and it was hard. And I, filmmaking is supposed to be unbiased, but it wasn't. And Martina was struggling, and I said to Chrissy, I was like, didn't you realize that she had no sponsorships, And Chrissy, in Chrissy form said, well, she had racket sponsorships, and Martina, who doesn't usually fire back at all, said, but that's it. And it became this like really important conversation, right? And Chrissy, to her credit, and I cannot tell you how much credit I gave Chrissy during this filming, because she said I didn't realize, because she was in her own struggle. She was losing, she was fighting for her marriage, she was in her own bubble of a world, and she said, I didn't realize that, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. And I think that Sally has that great line about damage that they had done to each other, and I do believe that there was some healing here between the two of them, of things that maybe they had skirted under the table for years, that maybe they had spoken about. Like, they hadn't ever watched matches that they maybe hadn't ever spoken about. I think there's a lot of just like, it was Nancy Lieberman, and that was that.
Yeah, that was a very tense few days, 100%. A lot of hiding behind couches, just to take a breath. But along those lines too, you know, when they're so phenomenal at what they did, and they both were swapping one and one back and forth. It's hard. I think one of the moments for me that's really powerful is when Chris says, she's not just a better athlete, she's a better tennis player. And I really give Becca credit, because that was like the 11th hour that we got that out of Chris. She would often say, much to Martina's chagrin, and they talked about this, it was really beautiful. She was like, you always say I was the athlete and you were the one with the mental game. Like, that's really a disservice to me. And Chris was like, I'm sorry, you're right. You know, they had these moments of, you hold on to your story for all the human reasons you hold on to it, but now they're having to do this together in a way that isn't about just the rivalry. It's about the humanity, it's about the sacrifices, it's about the things they can look at each other and say, the only other person who knows my journey professionally is this person, and now also with cancer is this person. Like, that's bananas. And I think that was one of the things that even drew both of us separately until we came together on this project to it. Like, what's the difference maker? Because, you know, before every tournament, I say this all the time, before every tournament, they're like, the Chris and Martina rivalry. So I was like, I said, she calls me, hi, I'm Rebecca, I'm directing this project. Do you want to, you know, let's talk about maybe you producing? And we were talking, and I said, you know, the story's been done a lot. She's like, too much. It's been done too much. And she's like, we're doing it different. And it was just such a phenomenal journey to be on, to both to align so much in how do we get the things we haven't heard, and how do we get them to be vulnerable with us. And Becca really led that charge, and she didn't give up with things. I mean, there was a couple times where I was like behind her doing a Chrissy, yeah, when she'd be like, Chrissy, no, we've heard that, let's do something, you know, and I was like, good job. Amazing to watch and to be a part of.
Thank you both so much. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much for this film. It's really incredible.